Hi everybody, and welcome to today's announcement of Salt Lake City's new EV public charging stations. My name is Tyler Polson, and I help manage the project as part of the city's Department of Sustainability, and I helped coordinate efforts across a range of groups. Our facilities team at the city, engineering, and also finance were really integral to making this project a success, as was my teammate here, Shannon Williams, who helped get things off the ground from the start and then get things moving. And then I should also acknowledge at the outset our contractor, Black & McDonald, who ultimately was responsible for site design and ensuring these stations were installed. So they're here today as well. So today you're going to hear from our mayor, Jackie Biskupski, who will share some thoughts on electric vehicles and their importance to clean air and Salt Lake City's community energy goals. Mayor Biskupski will be followed by Bryce, Director of the Utah Division of Air Quality. Bryce and his team at DAQ have been instrumental in supporting the city's pollution reduction initiatives over the years, and you'll hear about how they supported this specific electric vehicle charging station project. And then finally, we'll close. I'll add some additional thoughts and context about project logistics and how the public can ultimately use these new EV charging sites. And so with that, please welcome our mayor, Jackie Biskupski, to the podium.
Thank you. Thank you, Tyler. That was great. And thank you to everyone who came here today to support this new clean air infrastructure. This is a very exciting time. And I'm very pleased to announce that we have added 28 new level 2 electric vehicle charging ports in 12 separate locations in Salt Lake City. That is amazing. Tyler will explain to you what level 2 means because he wants to, so we'll leave that to him. But these new charging stations have been installed all over the city, from public parks to downtown parking stalls. These 28 new stations have also replaced 5 older electric vehicle charging units and will provide a higher level of service to EV owners. Electric vehicles are a critical part in our solution to improving our air quality. They are also a cornerstone of Salt Lake City's vision to reduce community greenhouse gas emissions 80% by 2040. This vision, which we are calling Climate Positive, was adopted by myself and the City Council last year. In addition to ensuring a transition to 100% renewable energy for our electricity supply by 2032, Climate Positive calls for a reduction in emissions from all energy sources. We have some copies of the Climate Positive plan on hand here today for those that would like to explore this community vision a bit further. We know that vehicles account for about 20% of Salt Lake City's community carbon footprint and an even greater percentage of our air quality issues. If we are going to reach our goals, we are going to need to not only get cars off the road, we need to get tailpipes off the road. That's where EVs come in. While electric vehicles will help clear our air, it is also important that we transition to powering these vehicles with 100% renewable energy over time. I am pleased to be collaborating with our electric utility, Rocky Mountain Power, on this 100% renewable vision for clean energy, while we also partner to increase the adoption of electric vehicles. Rocky Mountain Power is a recent recipient of a $4 million grant from the U.S. Department of Energy to support electrifying transportation. They are also proposing to spend an additional $10 million specifically on electric vehicle charging infrastructure to Utah over the next 5 years. Congratulations to Rocky Mountain Power. With the help of partners like Rocky Mountain Power and the Utah Division of Air Quality, Salt Lake City will help lead the way in developing best practices to finally clearing our air. Our team at the Department of Sustainability has been directed to help lead this effort and to ensure that Salt Lake City helps other communities adopt these best practices. I'd now like to turn the time over to Bryce Bird. Bryce and his team at the Division of Air Quality were a major catalyst to this project moving forward. A generous grant from DAQ paid for the hard costs associated with these charging stations, and this money was combined with matching city funds to help pay for the overall investment. Bryce? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Biskupski. It's a pleasure to be here today and partner in this effort. Of course, air quality is a challenge for us during specific times of the year, and as we know, vehicles are a major contributor to the air pollution that we see both in the winter and in the summer along the Wasatch Front. When we look at how to solve this problem in the future, of course, we are a growing area, we have a growing economy, we have to accommodate not only our existing pollution sources, but also plan for the future. And as we look at the future, of course, electric vehicles need to be a major portion of our vehicle mix. Of course, not all jobs can be done with an electric vehicle, but with having the infrastructure in place, having charging stations and a distributed network available, that removes some of the range anxiety that comes with an electric vehicle. You have to be close enough to a charging station, and so the Division of Air Quality has been working with partners throughout the state to identify ways to solve this challenge and, of course, improve our air quality through this process. Since 2008, the Division of Air Quality has awarded over $1.9 million in grants for both clean fuel and electric vehicle infrastructure. Of course, this money is both money that was available from penalties from environmental pollution sources, as well as funding from both state legislators and, of course, the Federal Environmental Protection Agency, which has allowed us to target these efforts towards improving air quality. There's two components, actually, well, three. We'll talk about three components to improving air quality. First of all, it's a strong regulatory base. We need to look at how do we solve the problem, make sure that the large pollution sources, like the industrial sources, have as few emissions as possible and they comply with the regulations. There is an incentive-based process. So we look at incentivizing and encouraging people to adopt newer and cleaner technology. And then, of course, the third is public outreach and education, making sure that people know that everything that we do has a contribution to the air quality that we experience here along the Wasatch Front. We know that that having the infrastructure in place is a major driver toward people purchasing electric vehicles. And again, this process is one that follows in with that overall goal to make sure that there is a broad infrastructure in place that people can use these vehicles and use them with confidence. Salt Lake City has utilized $200,000 in a clean fuel grant incentive to expand the use of electric vehicles, and these 28 charging stations are an example of those at 12 separate locations throughout the city. Just the last piece is not only here in Salt Lake City, but we're also partnering with other states as well. So Colorado, Utah, and Nevada are in the process of installing or identifying a network of charging stations to allow people to travel from state to state through the rural areas of our state and each of the other states, so that again we can travel through Nevada, Utah, and Colorado and do so with these cleaner electric vehicles. Once again, this is the way that we solve our problems here is finding solutions to reduce emissions, reduce tailpipe emissions, and we again thank Salt Lake City for participating in these advances, and especially with this electric infrastructure.
Thank you.
Okay, just wrap it up with some closing comments, but thank you to Bryce and to the mayor for your great commentary on this new project. As the mayor alluded to, the Division of Air Quality truly was a catalyst in moving this project forward and bringing these charging stations to the Salt Lake City community. And as he'd also spoken about, through their Clean Fuels and Vehicle Technology Fund, we've been a recipient for a number of years. That grant program has helped pay the incremental price premium on a number of clean fleet vehicles that we use internally for our operations, ranging from CNG waste and recycling haulers to passenger class all electric vehicles like the Ford Focus over here that we have in our vehicle pool and we use for fire administration, among other things. So thank you again to Bryce, and in particular Lisa Burr from your staff, who's been instrumental in moving some of these solutions along over the years. So I'm going to close with just a bit more information about the charging stations themselves, and then I'd suggest we move away from the podium and allow for some one-on-one questions with any of the speakers. So as was mentioned, Salt Lake City added charging stations to a total of 12 separate locations, and they're reflected on this map over here. We selected the EV start charging station sites based on a few criteria. First, we wanted to ensure a geographic diversity, so there are a variety of options to plug in your vehicle across the city. We also selected sites such as city parks and key downtown locations where there was pre-existing parking demand, relatively high traffic, and the ability to do something like hang out in Liberty Park while your vehicle's getting a charge. And then finally, we also pre-screened the sites and selected those with existing electricity infrastructure. And this allowed us to complete the project at a lower cost and ultimately have charging stations at more sites in total. So these new EV stations are what are known as level 2 charging stations. And so that means they provide power at or above 200 volts of electricity. And they can support around 20 miles of all electric driving per hour that a vehicle is plugged in. The specific rate of charging for these charge point stations is roughly 5 times faster than plugging into a traditional 120 volt outlet at your home. It also provides a complement to at-home charging or at work to ensure that drivers have the power they need throughout the day. All of the stations are smart network connected units. That means EV drivers can pull up the locations on the ChargePoint smartphone app and see in real time whether a station is available and or if there are any operational issues with the station at that time. The stations also communicate live updates about the status of your vehicle charging event. And then finally, the stations also automatically report operational issues to both city staff and our contractor that's in charge of operations and maintenance. So these EV stations currently have a fee schedule associated with them of $1 to connect plus 10 cents for every kilowatt hour of energy provided. This fee helps the city cover electricity and other ongoing costs, such as software and customer support associated with the stations. The fee is a slight premium over the retail rates that Rocky Mountain Power charges customers, but still equates to about 5 cents per mile, depending on the length of your charging event, which can be even cheaper than gasoline. So one thing to note is that the mayor's office has transmitted a proposal to City Council that would actually waive fees for use of these stations through January 31st, 2018. The fee waiver would leverage about $18,000 of remaining surplus budget on the city side for this project, and we're currently waiting scheduling of that discussion with City Council. So thank you again to everybody for joining us, all the clean air enthusiasts and EV owners.